A24 gets into the multiverse game with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Directed by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, this movie tells the story of a woman who's recruited by an alternate version of her husband to save the multiverse from a threat known as the Jobu Tobaki. Daniels also directed Swiss Army Man, so if you like that movie, this one will be right up your alley. I'm gonna be honest, this is one of the first movies in a while where I don't know where to start because this movie has so much going for it. It's absolutely insane. The visuals, the story, everything is bonkers, but it all works. From a technical standpoint, this movie is an absolute masterpiece, but on top of that, they also have a really great story here that centers on this family and the different issues that are going on that kind of tie into the bigger picture. The visual effects, the cinematography, and the editing are all on point. Shout out to the cinematographer, Larkin Staple, and Paul Rogers, the editor. These two, along with the visual effects team, created a movie that is unlike anything you've probably seen in recent history, at least in live action. For me, this movie does for live action what Spider-Verse did for animation. This just set the bar through the roof because I am still thinking about all the crazy stuff I saw in this movie. All the different creative tricks they did with the camera work, visual effects, the costumes too. Since this is a multiverse movie, you're seeing alternate versions of these characters. So you're seeing them in different costumes, different makeup, sometimes different appendages. There are a lot of multiverse projects, especially in the superhero genre, but this movie takes the multiverse to a level that I have never seen before. Like, I can't even fathom some of the stuff they came up with in this movie. Now, even though this movie is introducing some very big ideas with the multiverse and throwing you headfirst into this crazy world, it's still really easy to follow for the most part. Like, they do give you enough explanation so it all does make sense. I love the mechanics of this world, the rules of it. In the movie, Michelle Yeoh's character, Evelyn, needs to channel the abilities of alternate versions of herself to fight the bad guys. And the way that works, I'm not going to spoil it, but the way she has to activate those powers continues to get more absurd as the movie goes on. Throughout the movie, you see how other characters have to activate their abilities, and that, I think, is one of the funniest parts of the movie. It continues to get weirder and weirder as the movie goes on. And between the direction and the camera work, they find really creative ways to stage how all this happens. And on top of that, we have all these characters they have to balance, and alternate versions of these characters that they have to balance that I think they pull off so well. For me, the standouts are Michelle Yeoh as Evelyn and Stephanie Hsu as her daughter Joy. These two are the heart of the movie. Their relationship is so important, and I think these two work really well together on screen. Again, with this multiverse concept, you have the characters and then you have alternate versions of the characters from the multiverse. And I think for me, Stephanie Hsu was one of the strongest performances here. She was so good at playing both Joy and these alternate versions of her you see throughout the movie. She absolutely killed it. Michelle Yeoh is also great in this movie, not only with playing alternate versions of herself, but also the fight choreography. She is a martial arts legend, so that's no surprise. But I also think she does a great job of depicting the layers that her character has throughout the movie. You see how she has to deal with all these different things going wrong in her life, and sort of the message of this movie is about how sometimes those things that go wrong are what lead you to your destiny and what you're really meant to do. This movie also marks the return of Ke Kwan to cinema. He hasn't been in a movie for over a decade, I think, but he's been involved in Hollywood still. If you don't know who he is, he was in Goonies and in Temple of Doom. It was great to see him on screen again. He is also one of the best performances in the movie, especially when it comes to the multiverse part, because he has to kind of go in and out of the original version of his character and then the other version that comes in from the multiverse. These three together, this whole family unit, I think is really the core of this movie. It is about all this action and crazy stuff. It is about the crazy visuals, but especially in the second half, it's about the conflict. It's about the relationship between these family members and what they're going through. And then another element to the family thing is James Hong, who plays Evelyn's dad. And there's a layer to that too. Now, Everything Everywhere All at Once does share a story thread with another movie from this year, which was starring Sandra Oh. I did not like that movie as much as this one. Both of these movies focus on mothers who are trying to do right by their kids and not recreate the mistakes that their parents made with them. I think this movie executes that way better than This theme, I think, is what really invests you in these characters and what's going on between them outside of this whole multiverse thing. But it does also connect to the multiverse thing in a very weird way, a really bonkers way, but it all works. Also, without getting into spoilers, I did like that there was a meta element to the movie. There are certain jokes that relate to things in the real world that I thought were really well executed and really funny. And there's certain things that get set up at the beginning of the movie that come into play later that I think work well too. Also, I forgot to mention Jamie Lee Curtis is in this movie. She's great too. Overall, I think this was one of the craziest but also the most profound movies of the year so far. I probably gonna have to go see it again because I feel like there's a lot of stuff to chew on that I need to watch it again and like process it. It is a little long, 2.5 hours, but most of it flies by. I will say some elements of the third act do drag a little bit, but overall, I think it is a crazy, fun adventure. Definitely worth seeing in theaters. Please go see this on the big screen. Right now, this movie is in limited release, but it goes into wide release April 8th. I was able to watch this movie at an Alamo Drafthouse, a new one in my area. So definitely check one of those out or look at other theaters in your area that might be showing it. But if not, you can catch it in the wide release where it will go to places like AMC and Regal. It's definitely worth seeing on the big screen. If you have seen it already, let me know what you think down in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.